All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Goose and Gabe, the servant leader. In this episode, the crew covers topics that range from leadership mentality and attitude, influences and environment, power versus authority, love, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Dale Carnegie and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, gentlemen. All right, so basically we want to jump right into a book titled The Servant Leader. The actual title is The Servant, A Simple Story About the True Essence of Leadership by James C. Hunter. Now, this book is very significant. A lot of organizations use it for their leadership teams to kind of get them in the same thinking direction / mentality on how to properly serve your people in the most effective and efficient way with 3 million copies in print. So this stuff works, right? And listen, so there's a ton of information in this book that are useful for both personal and professional growth, but and a ton of concepts. We're just going to focus on a few highlighted ones that stuck out to me. I've read the book 3.5 times within the last month, and so I really wanted to digest it. It was given to me as a gift, and I took that gift seriously, especially for personal growth. And so these are some of the lessons I learned and some of the key things I highlighted, and I wanted to kind of bounce the ideas off the gentleman here. All right, so they're very general concepts, and we could elaborate on them ourselves. So one of the first things it talks about is having old paradigms and how old paradigms can drag us down. And so basically, since this is talking about an organization, it's talking about how old paradigms, basically how factories and organizations were ran back in the day, are not nearly as effective. Maybe like the methodologies are not as nearly as effective as they once were. And the workforce has totally changed, right? How we approach the workforce and how we visualize the workforce, how we maintain the workforce and everything that comes with it, including engagement, is totally different. I mean, I think about, the work stories my grandfather would come home and tell us when my grandmother was watching us and the conditions that they're working under versus, conditions maybe now someone in the same position is working under. The economy was totally different 30, 40 years ago as well. And what we learned about human potential, human growth, habits that people have is wildly different than, again, 30, 40 years ago. Or maybe we knew those concepts, we never really applied them. Yeah. If that makes sense. And if an organization did, it was at a very minimum. Not many organizations.
Well, they weren't really pushing for those things amongst the general workforce.
Right. And I mean, just think about the basic concept of human resources. Yeah. And benefits, right? And so let's talk 100 years ago, there 1,000% was not a human resources department. Yeah. Maybe there's a person that you can go to that acted as a buffer between yourself and the boss, maybe. But in terms of an actual department, I highly doubt it.
And it was probably more just like, we need to have your W-2s and stuff like more just handling that stuff. There wasn't really like you said, the go-betweens of like if there's issues with you and your boss, I don't think, like you said, there's not really much of that stuff.
No.
It's kind of dealt with it or you didn't.
That's right. And then it all kind of like, I guess, fast forward with workers realizing that, and then they started forming unions and started fighting for the workers' rights, so to speak. And what conditions they can and or should operate under, and what that should look like. And you fast forward to, again, 50, 70 years, whatever you want to call it, the moral of the story is old paradigms are not working in today's environment. Yeah. And we see it all the time. All of us have probably worked for somebody who's probably stuck in that old way of conducting business.
Sure.
And we know it doesn't work. And maybe it did work at one point, and I believe it did work at one point, but it's just not the most efficient. Yeah, it's outdated. It's ineffective. And you're going to have a workforce that's just not motivated. So the first thing is working under old paradigms. Leadership mentality. The intro made an amazing statement, and it went, great organizations are a group of all leaders where everyone is taking personal responsibility for the success of the team and their individual influence on the customer and one another. And when I read that, it's kind of a mouthful, but when I initially read that, was everyone in the organization is taking ownership of their actual role, right? Goose, I think about the barbershop. These guys can individually run their own business in a sense that on his application, their customers can book their appointments with their barber, right? And so they're running a mini business,
Sure.
right? And they're contacting and communicating with their clients over their cell phone, messaging system, whatever it is. For example, if someone's sick or needs to call out or has a doctor's appointment, needs to reschedule things, they're kind of running it on their own within a larger business. But if everyone had that, I guess, mentality, what would your business then look like, right? And I'm talking about on a much larger scale. If everyone took actual responsibility for their own little tasks, right, that they're given. If you look at the roles and responsibilities of a given position for whatever system, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in the barber beauty industry, it doesn't matter. If you look at someone's job description and whatever that defined, and the person truly operated within that, and you take that as your own responsibility, what would that actually look like? Yeah. The issue becomes, I believe, is when you have a lazy worker or maybe someone who's just not motivated, they're not interested anymore in being productive or just doing the bare minimum, that's where all the issues actually lie.
Yes.
But if you did have a group of individuals who treated their positions like a small business, how much different would everyone's outcome and success rate
be? It would be the most successful business ever.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to see.
That's hyperbolic, but yeah, I mean, it's.
You have to have a vested interest. Everyone has to have 100%. Some level of what is in it for them. Yeah. For them because initially, right? Maybe later on down the road, 20 years, people understand that. Maybe in their career, they understand that it's going to be up to me to produce the best product, and I'm going to get. My clientele is going to grow because of that. Yeah. But if someone's just starting out, how can you get them to think that way immediately, right off the bat? And it should be because of experience. It should be based off, let me get as much experience and almost trials and testing for themselves. This is what works. This is what does not work. Yeah. And with the mindset of maybe eventually I'll have my own barbershop. Right? And so... the book is talking about everyone taking responsibility that even though they're all part of this huge company, their department down to their people who report to them, down to their actual tasks and their responsibilities, what they individually were hired for, to their workstation. And if everyone looked at their workstation, their desk, their machine, whatever is in front of you and where you operate from, what does that look like? And are you taking full advantage of the tools and resources that are given to you? Because, I mean, you know, there's people who had maybe not the best tools in the industry and were super productive and have a large clientele, because sometimes it's not just the quality of haircut, it's also the quality of the experience. How are you talking to them? How are you tapping into that relationship and building that rapport with them is just as important as the haircut itself.
Yeah, and that's everyone always like, I get questions asked all the time, like, oh, what kind of tools do you use? Do you have like, whatever, like, and it's, for me, it's not what kind of tools you have. It's your techniques and your skill level. Because I can have the best like pair of scissors in the world, probably cost like $10,000, and I can have a $50 pair of shears and do the same exact thing, and it'll come out just as nice because of my technique. So it's not all about like, it is about the tools, but then the tools can only help you to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So it's like same thing like Jordans. You see people wearing Jordans on their feet, but doesn't mean they're good basketball players.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's like it only goes to like your tools. They say your tools are only as good as you are, but it can only go to a certain extent too.
Because they're an extension of your own personal skill.
Yes. So like if you have good tools, that means you have good quality stuff. You vested into what your craft is.
Yes.
But if you don't know how to use them, it's worthless.
Exactly.
So in taking that for the workstation example, right? Look at everyone's workstation. I'm not saying here at the barbershop. I'm saying where you operate, whatever that is, and whatever you consider a workstation. Everyone's workstations looks and appears something to be different, right? Whether it's a desk, whether it's a barber chair, whether it's a conveyor belt, whatever the heck is in front of you. How are you operating, and what does that look like? And are you situating yourself? Are you gathering yourself to be the most efficient and effective for that day? Or is everything one big clutter? Or is everything just you have no idea and you're totally disorganized? Right? So me and you can have the same desk and have the same items on it. But my items, let's just say, are all over the place, and yours are individually like stacked and neatly placed, and you know exactly where they are. Even if I had a clutter and I know, quote, exactly where everything are, I'm still have to fumble through things because it's a mess. Whereas you, even if it was a split second, you can grab that pen, you know exactly where it is. You can, grab the charger for your laptop. Those little split seconds then start adding up. They become minutes, then become hours, and become days over the term of someone's career. And you look at, it's all about those little things. I posted something on social media, I think it was yesterday, to my story saying, small disciplines are underrated. And it's literally the smallest things. Reading 20 pages a day can lead to 30 books, in a year. It's like something so little is so easy to do, but it's also so easy not to do. And are we doing those little things? And anyway, to go back to the workstation thing, are you doing the little things to prep yourself to be the most efficient and the best version of yourself? Not just organizing yourself for that day, but what about the night before for the following day is a huge thing. And Goose, you could talk about this, but I mean, he has like cordless tools. So if they're not charged, and I'm sure there's a cord where you could plug it in, but it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? And how are you setting yourself up for the next day? I know myself, I always have a to-do list, a handwritten old school to-do list of the top 5 things I have to do the following day. When they get done, that's up to the day, because the way certain days go, I can knock them all out, and the way other days go, I can't do them until time permits or meetings permit. So as long as they get done, I'm good. But that's setting myself up for success for the next day. So I know we use a lot of time on gathering yourself in the mornings and making sure everything's ready to rock and roll, and then in operation. And then when you come back from a specific break, what does that look like? And again, looking at your workstation and your job and your tasks like they're your own little business. Once you start caring for your job, the tasks that are given to you, once you start owning up to them like they're a little business, like they're your own business within the business, I'm telling you, you're going to catapult. At some way, some level, someone's going to recognize you, someone's going to take notice, and something's going to happen, or you're just going to outgrow where you are. And you're going to move on anyway. So Goose, talk about a little bit about your tools and stuff.
So like
prep.
Nowadays, all the barber like clippers and stuff like that, it's me personally, I'm like 99% cordless. I got one pair of clippers that I still plug in. They're old school. They're like my favorite. They're my go-tos. I won't ever get rid of them. But so like at the end of my shift or my night or whatever, I clean up my station. Got this little this little blower, clean up all the hairs off my clippers, sanitize them, and I like to get everything ready and organized for like the next day. So I plug them all in, make sure they're fully charged, and just obviously me being the owner of the shop, I have to clean up. There's more that I have to do. Like I vacuum the shop, I clean the bathrooms, do all that other stuff. But I try to keep myself ready for the next morning.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes.
What's the importance of that?
Yeah, sometimes like you never know what's gonna happen on your. You can get caught up in traffic on your way to work. Like so, my first customer is here at 9:00. Our first appointment is. So I try to get here like 8:30, 7:45, or 8:45. So I'm ready to go. But sometimes there's like, now school's starting, so I'm going to take my daughter to school. Like her bus has been late, whatever.
Yeah.
So we're just running around. So, but my 9:00 appointment, as soon as I walk in the door, my 9:00 appointment can walk in with me at the same time, and I'm ready to rock and roll right then and there.
Yeah.
Because I set myself up the night before. Everything's clean, sanitized, all my clippers, all my equipment is charged, ready to go. All I got to do is, for entertainment at the shop, turn the TV on, turn the music on, the radio, and that's it. And then, so I'm ready to start my job. The second I walk in the door, I'm ready to start my job. Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
So there's no wasting time where I gotta set my station up again, clean it up, or make sure everything's sanitized. And it just, I don't know, it makes it easier. So I like Lauren always says, "What time are you coming home?" Like, well, my last one's at 7, so I won't be home till like 7:30, 7:45, because it takes me a half hour, 45 minutes to clean up the rest of the shop, you know? So I'd rather take that time at the end of the day to set myself up for the morning. I'm not a huge morning person, so like if I can just walk in and just get right to work, that's key. That works for me.
I love it. And what about you, Gabe? Do you have anything that you kind of prep yourself or set yourself up for the following day or maybe the morning of?
So I generally I know a couple of tasks I have to do, because like there's a couple things I always for like being reassigned, whatever. It's like the night before, like I'll set that up, whatever. Like before I head out for the night, like I'll set up the stack of papers I need to go through, or like I know have sometimes I get reports I have to go through to make sure certain open things are closed by like a certain period of time. I'll print out those reports the night before, make sure I have it all set to go, because like those type of things I like to do in the morning. So it's like I make sure that's all printed out, ready to go. So when I come in the morning, I just start going through all the different files, whatever, and make sure it's at least sent out properly. So if anything else needs to be like re-gone through again, I have that done by the morning, and then I usually do by the afternoon, by winding down by like 11:30, 12. That I'm already start figuring out what I have to do. I'm gonna have to make some phone calls stuff for the afternoon. I usually leave that to there, and it's at least I know I have a certain schedule, and I kind of try to abide by that. There's always extra duties as assigned, whatever, random stuff comes up, but at least I have an idea of, at least a daily idea of what I need to do for that particular day. I mean, it's pretty much a routine for the most part, but I mean, there's always extra stuff that comes in there, but I try to stick to at least the two main things of first thing, the reports and stuff in the morning, and the extra phone calls and stuff I had to do in the afternoon and whatnot.
Yeah, no, it's huge. I think one additional thing or tip I'll leave is when for my to-do list or things that I may think of while I'm already commuting back home, I email myself, which sounds so funny, but I email myself. It's almost like a reminder. So when I go in the next day and looking at my emails, it's like, oh yeah, I got to remember to reach out to this person regarding X, Y, and Z issue.
And I think you kind of mentioned that not too long ago too. It's like if I something like that, if it's something I have to take care of, I'll set an alarm 15, 20 minutes early. So I'm gonna do this here, and I'll make sure to crank it out.
Same thing with follow up. When I have to follow up with somebody, a lot of times it's maybe a contract, maybe something you do on a regular basis, maybe a monthly basis. There's reports that I have to submit and actually process on a monthly basis. So it's not something I'm doing every single day.
Yeah.
So it's easy to forget if you're only doing it once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So I have reminders on my calendar of, run this report, enter this data.
Then it'll alert you, whatever
platform. Yes. And so those are the things that keep you on, and it's funny, that's something so little. That takes under 30 seconds to set up. Under
Yeah.
30 seconds. And when I tell you that has saved me, I couldn't even tell. I mean, it's exponential for the level of organization that helps and provides, and lack of fear and worry.
Yeah.
Because I know I put it in there somewhere. There's even ones I have backup reminders for if it's that important.
Sure.
And, we have vendors and things like that I have to stay on top of for specific things, and make sure we follow up with them on that, to provide coverage or whatever they had promised us, and so, those are little things. Again, nothing extravagant, but when you add an organized desk, a to-do list from the night before, additional emails on your way home, or reminders, I should say. All that little stuff adds up for a successful day the following,
because then you forget that one thing. It's like, 3 hours later, and then you're scrambling to do it.
Oh my gosh, and it derails what you're currently doing.
Yes.
Or you could be in the middle of a meeting, like, and now you're not paying attention at that
100%.
during that meeting,
Because you're worried about the other thing that wasn't done.
Absolutely. All right, so to transition to another topic that I enjoyed was power versus authority. The author defined the important difference between power and authority. Authority is always built on serving and sacrificing for those you lead, which comes from identifying and meeting legitimate needs. The role of the leader is to serve, to meet the needs of their people. So to go back on power and authority. So authority is people, it's almost like people responding to you based off of their actual experience with you and the way you've kind of interacted with them in the past. And so they have that level of, you have authority when you walk into the room because of X, Y, and Z, which is way different than power. Power is almost like just position. Like you have power because of your position.
Yeah.
You understand the difference? It's way different than authority. Like you have authority over people because they respect you and they're like, oh wow,
Kind of
like
a presence. Or
and you don't. It has nothing to do with a position. You could be the lowest on the whatever, and you can have authority. In the way you talk, right, or in the way you address things. That's how people come up in the rankings almost, is because they act and speak from a level of authority.
I mean, it's kind of like respect, or
Yeah, sort of. But it's also backed by like knowledge and experience. So it's like I can respect somebody. That doesn't mean they have an authority in something, right? But if someone is, it's almost like they're bringing the experience, they're bringing kind of the confidence too, and then there's like I respect that part. So I'm listening because they have the authoritative like approach almost to how they do. Where someone's power, I'm only literally solely listening to them because of their position. I'm only listening to this guy because he's my boss. Right? Where someone with authority, he could be like my counterpart, and I'm listening to him because he knows what he's talking about, and I respect where he's coming from because I've seen him do the work because he's helped me and I've helped him. Whereas someone could, you see it all the time with maybe companies that are ran overseas, and the owner's actually on another country. And then they fly over and everyone's like stops and freezes. That's power. And so people stop and freeze just because they know where you are on the totem pole, so to speak, where you are in rankings. So you want to have that authoritative voice, in any dealing, whether it's at home or at work. Another important thing was authority and leadership. And this is coming from chapter 4. If you're trying to hone in on The Servant, a simple story about the true essence of leadership by James Hunter, check out chapter 4. Specifically, these listed characteristics of authority and leadership: honest, trustworthy, good role model, caring, committed, good listener, held people accountable, treating people with respect, gave people encouragement, positive, enthusiastic attitude, appreciated people, patient, kind, humble, respectful, selfless, forgiving, honest. And so what I want to, and that's quite a list, right? I mean, kind of it's like over the top too at the same time. Like, okay, this guy's a perfect person. But let's talk about the bold ones. I highlighted a few and how we're all experiencing trials and tribulations, and the true difference is how we wear it. So, so the 4 I want to talk about is gave people encouragement, positive, a person's positive, has an enthusiastic attitude, and appreciated people. I'll rewind back. Gave people encouragement, positive. They have a positive attitude. They have an enthusiastic attitude, and they appreciated people. The reason why I'm highlighting these things is because we often encounter people who we always say, oh, you're always happy. Oh, you're always positive. Oh, everything goes your way. Oh, you're always lucky, right? And we fail to realize, do you truly think that that's true? Yeah. Do you really think that that's an actual possibility in this crazy world we live in? Do you really think that person's always that lucky?
Sure.
Do you really think that person's always that happy? Do you really think that person's always that enthusiastic about things? No. The person wears it differently.
Sure. Okay?
So we all go through trials and tribulations, right? We all have our troubles. We all have our struggles. Everyone behind the scenes, regardless of the front or makeup that they're putting on at their workplace, at home they have things going on. Now, they could be high, they could be low, but there's things going on.
Yeah.
Because sometimes someone can have a very good thing going on, but it's highly stressful.
Sure.
Right? So that doesn't mean, it's a bad time for them and they're going through. No, someone could be stressed out on a really good thing, right? Just as much as someone could be very stressed out on a very bad thing, like their car just broke down, they lost their job, and, they're sick, and it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on there. Yeah. And there's a lot of assumptions that are being made on a day-to-day basis. But the reason why I'm highlighting these is because it's a true leader. A true leader has the ability to wear their struggles differently and know when the appropriate time is to show that. Yeah. Maybe on a break room or to your boy, you can like kind of let loose and explain, what's going on. And, I'm not saying to hold everything in. we're talking about leadership at a workplace or leadership at home. You don't always have. You should not be wearing all the negative things that are happening to you at all times. Like, it makes no sense. Also, you're putting a burden on other people when you do that, right? And so,
because they don't know how to react to you.
Whoa, it's like, what's going on? You ever work with someone who you come in every single day and it's like walking on eggshells? You don't know what you're going to get.
Yep. It's a different person every single day.
It's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. So, and again, we're talking about leadership here.
Yeah.
So, there's some people who are not, ready for that role or whatever, and that's fine. But if you're trying to help develop yourself to get there, these are the things that are important. Again, it's the little things. As we've been talking, is a very similar pattern, a common thread that's going through all this. They're very little things we're talking about.
Well, and it's funny too, is like you highlight these ones because like a lot of times you hear like in corporations stuff too is like you don't feel appreciated, and it's always the only time you hear anything is always negative.
Yes.
So it's like that. It's funny. Like 2 of the 4 things is that, or you're just encouraging. I mean, enthusiastic. Like all that stuff encompasses like a lot of big gripes with just corporations in general.
Yeah, for big corporations.
Yeah.
Right. So go back to the original concept I'm talking about. If you treat your position, whatever position that is, even if you are the owner of the business, if you treat it like it's your own, you own it, and it's up to you for this to be successful, you are going to be encouraging, you're going to be positive, you're going to have an enthusiastic attitude, and you're going to appreciate those around you because those are the items that are going to help turn things around. Now, is it always going to be that way? No. Are you going to have a bad day? Yes. We're talking about majority, right? When you put the negative on the scale and the positive on the scale, what I'm talking about is that the positive should outweigh the negative. So it should sit lower, right? Sure. And so how are you approaching the everyday? Because it's not for the big things. You ever see someone who kind of gets almost like switches things up a little bit? Maybe they, found a new significant other or something like that, and all of a sudden they kind of act different, in a good way. Like they're in a new groove. You ever see that? Like it's kind of fun to watch because they're kind of on the beam, and that's kind of where we should be at the majority of the time. But we fall off that and kind of not appreciate the situation and fall off and not become enthusiastic anymore, and
I become a little jaded, I guess.
yeah, you become a little jaded. But if you think about that, when you you have whatever that is going on and the excitement that there is, how many things bother you? Not that much.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
All of a
let
sudden,
everything slide right
everything
off.
slides right off. That's okay. That's all right. I got a good thing going. You know. And it's funny, but if you have that level of attitude towards your everyday experience, and again, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but I'm telling you, your whole day and your career is going to look totally different in a very good way. Again, I say this all the time because people say, oh, you have luck, you're always positive. I wear it differently.
Sure.
I'm still going through crazy things, sometimes maybe even way crazier than whatever you're going through, or vice versa. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying that everyone's going through things. The way I express it is totally different, though. And maybe behind closed doors, like those close to me get to hear some of that stuff, but I'm not saying that kind of things to everyone. Anyway, so the whole thing is just be kind, because everyone's going through their own struggles. You just don't know what they are. Don't assume just because someone has a smile that everything's gravy. You know what I mean? But again, we're talking to leaders here. We're talking about the servant leader, where they're more concerned on a day-to-day basis trying to resolve issues for their people.
Sure.
All right, so let's switch it back. Let's switch up again to another topic, which is love. And I know this sounds super strange. And if this sounds super strange to you, that means I'm pretty sure you have not yet read The Servant, a simple story about the true essence of leadership by James C. Hunter. The reason why I say that is because how he describes and explains love is way different. When you think of love, guaranteed, most people, I'm not saying everyone, are thinking about a feeling.
Or like romantic love.
Yeah. Well, initially, right off the bat.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is the unconditional love. And what he's talking about is the unconditional love, really agape, and how we should behave towards others, not the noun describing how we feel. To love on them by your actions, and that's very different. We've all heard the verse to love thy neighbor, and people are like, that's a feeling. Like, how can I love my neighbor? I don't even know him. Yeah. But it means to love on him. But it's love, but it means to love on him. So if he forgot to close his garage door, knock on his door, hey, listen, you forgot. I don't want anything to happen. Close your garage door.
Yeah.
Your trash can's rolling down the hill. I went and got it for you. That's loving on. That's love. Except we keep thinking of it as love, like I have to have a romantic love. It's not that. Yeah. It's loving on them the way you would your child, your friend, another loved one.
Like the golden rule type.
Yes,
stuff.
Exactly. And so when you think of it that way and you love on your people, whether they're part of your organization, whether it's your friends and family, you're going to then see a huge difference on what it means to love thy neighbor. And again, we're talking to the leader. So this is going to play a huge role, because you're going to get folks who aren't necessarily operating on the same level you are and might have had a bad day, might have came in just by the skin of the teeth, had a flat tire, whatever. And so you have to love on them. You have to understand and accept that, yes, this is not their day today, but to help them as much as you can and where they're going to accept it. And just know that they may not, accept it the way you would like for them. But then you still have to, quote, love on them and that be okay with that and kind of proceed. Now, if things become a pattern, right? If someone's just constantly blowing you off or constantly has that's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the odds and ends things here and there. Sure. So someone just literally had a bad day. Or somebody just maybe said the wrong thing.
Yeah, more out of the ordinary stuff.
Yes. I'm not saying if someone's just a bad worker and you just keep blowing it off. That's not what I'm talking about. You need to address that issue. That issue needs to get addressed. Sure. But what I'm talking about is, the day-to-day things where help your people, love on them to get them to the next level. Sure. Love on them to smooth things out. Teach them a lesson while maybe they didn't handle a customer or a phone call the best way or the most professional. Coach them through that.
Yeah.
That's loving on them.
Because then they'll want to go to bat for you because you're doing it like in a more tactful way, not just like, it's always, there's always a constant reprimand as opposed to an encouraging way of doing it.
So on page 124, there's a diagram titled Love and Leadership, and it describes these concepts. It's about 6 to 7 concepts. Actually, it's more than that. Sorry, it's like 9. And what it means to love on your people. So patience, having patience is showing self-control. Kindness, giving attention, appreciation, and encouragement. Humility, being authentic and without pretense or arrogance. Respectfulness, treating others as important people. Let's stop there. Respectfulness, treating others as important people. One of the biggest things I see in every organization that I've ever encountered, you almost always see the rankings.
Yeah.
And it's like, as invisible, people don't even have to wear badges and you even know the rankings. Mm-hmm. You know who's who almost, right? And so I read this concept somewhere, I have no idea where, but it said, treat everyone and every encounter like they're the most important person in the world, because that's who they are to themselves. So if you treat them the way they want to be treated, you're just going to get that in return. So if you're excited about every encounter, again, guys, I'm talking about majority. Not every day is going to be the day to do that. I get it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, and you're conscious of it, and you're sitting in the elevator, and you're going up to whatever the floor, or if you're both waiting for coffee to be get made, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're around the way. Speak to that person. Be truly interested, not a fake flattery type thing.
Sure.
Saying like have a true interest in people and truly care about them. It's those little things. I guarantee if you do that for 1 week, you're going to have such a special experience because no one does it. No one has that much. Not many people have that much consideration or show that much interest in other folks. They just don't. It's just a thing of the past.
Just constantly just walk by each other and just don't interact.
People are more passionate about their cell phones. That's why. They're more passionate about social media, more interested in what's going on their little tiny device than what's the much larger actual real world. That's what's going on. And it's true. So the second you give, and even them knowing that, they're still going to sit on the elevator and look down.
Yeah.
But if you were to go to that while on the elevator and say, "Hope you're having a good day. How's everything going?" And you just that one little thing, that little entryway into thing, there's like, this person talk to me. Probably 90% of people will get on the elevator, won't even say anything to each other. Yeah. Again, it's those little things. Not every interaction is going to be perfect. But respectfulness, treating others as important people. It's huge. Selflessness, meeting the needs of others. Forgiveness, giving up resentment when wrong. Honesty, being free from deception. Commitment, sticking to your choices. Results, service and sacrifice. Setting aside your own wants and needs. Seeking the greatest good for others. So anyway, chapter 4, check it out. When they're talking about love, I thought it was super interesting. I started laughing. I'm like, this is a leadership book. What is going on? And then they break it down. You're like, wow, very powerful stuff. And one of the last topics is influence and environment. So chapter 5 discusses our environment, and it's important on creating a healthy one for people to grow and thrive. Grow and thrive. What kind of environment are you providing for your people? Again, we're talking about leaders. Again, we're talking about leaders of family. I'm not talking about just at home. I mean, just at work. I'm talking about everywhere you go. I'm sure you're a leader of something, whatever that is. Are you creating an environment for people to grow and thrive? And if it's yes, cool. It's just ask yourself, though. This involves giving our environment constant attention and seeking for areas of improvement where we can serve. And so, your environment is going to, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier about our workstations and prepping for the next day or prepping for them, your environment is going to play a huge role in your success. And you, at some point, you're going to have the ability to manage that and manage it in a way that's going to stack the odds in your favor. Meaning, are you going to come in, from, 2 hours of sleep and, try to knock out a double, 2 shifts with a lack of sleep, or, knowing you're doing a double and only pack, half of a lunch? Just, it's so much little stuff that you can do. Again, packing a lunch, really?
Yeah.
Again, getting enough sleep. What are we talking about here, guys? It's very basic stuff. This isn't magical things. But if you had a good night's sleep and you packed your lunch, how much you're already on. You're starting the next day ready to rock and roll, right? So it's those little things, and you're preparing yourself and making your environment one that is going to give yourself and others the ability to grow and thrive. The whole point of this is for us to become more of what we already are, to become the best version that we already, the best version of ourselves. But to go back, for the example, it's like, we're in the Apple season. They just released whatever, Apple 13 or whatever it is. Every year they come out with the latest version. Yeah. I mean, think about technology just like that. Just like that, in 1 year, they're telling you what the upgrades are. Yeah. We all know, of course, there's going to be an upgraded camera somewhere, Of
course.
It's going to be smaller, and it's going to have a better battery charge. It's literally the same things. Yeah. But the important thing to tap into here is it made an improvement.
Sure.
At least they can say that they made an improvement. Now, whether they shift things around or who knows, or how valid these things are we doing that? Are we taking, into account or the items that we can improve on a yearly basis? Are we also doing that the way Apple's doing that with their phones, or any other company that's upgrading their cell phones or technology, whatever it is? Are you taking, account and listing the things that you can improve on, right? And you have to know where you are to know where you're going.
Yeah.
Like if you want to set a goal, you have to know where you are. It's like saying, like, I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, how much do you weigh? And you have no idea.
Sure.
Or you want to lose a fat percentage, and you don't even know what your BMI is. You have to know where you are. You have to take inventory of what you are and what you have. From there, make the adjustments, make the improvements. Then operate on that level. What is the point of having these upgrades with these phones when I can guarantee, I don't even know, there has to be a statistic out there somewhere, at least I'll say 50% of people don't even utilize whatever the new technology or new upgrade even is. And if they do, I guarantee it's accidentally. But I'm talking about taking inventory, making the adjustments, and then utilizing those changes. Yeah. Why did you improve? For what reason? To better yourself. Then go in that direction.
Yeah.
And again,
use the new improvements.
Yes, exactly. But that's just prepping yourself. That has everything to do with your environment, setting yourself up for success. And one of the last two questions are: how does leadership at work carry over to your home? It's pretty simple. I just have it here. Set the tone and lead by example. Yeah. Set the tone and lead by example. If you're the leader of your household, everyone's legitimately looking at you. You're setting the tone. So if you come in angry, the whole rest of the house is eventually probably going to be angry, right? If you come in happy, you're going to, because you have such an influence, especially if you have kids. Like, you have such an influence. And if you come in angry and yelling at everybody, that has an influence on I guarantee you change the atmosphere. Yeah. You change the environment. But to go back on the previous topic, are you creating an environment for folks to grow and thrive? It's that same way. Lead by example. Set the tone. Yeah, set the tone, lead by example. And then what's your recommendation to anyone trying to become a good leader?
Well, I think it's everything you listed before.
Yeah. Live a disciplined life. And as I mentioned before, and this is actually a quote from the book, we must never forget that people buy into the leader before they buy into a mission statement. Once they have bought into the leader, they will buy into whatever mission statement the leader's got. Isn't that interesting? So in saying, it's almost saying, you know, what you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say. You ever hear that?
Yes.
It's because it's like, dude, I can tell my kids, oh, you have to work out every single day and you're going to be the healthiest and eat all the healthiest foods ever. And that's how you become the best version of yourself. But they're just going to do what I'm doing, right? Or they're going to evaluate what I'm saying versus what I'm doing, at least. Sure. Mm-hmm. And whether they copy me or not is one whole thing. But you have to, again, it's your actions. And once people see that, whether it's, you know, your team members or your family members, again, leadership here, once they see that, they'll follow it. More than likely, they're going to follow it because you have authority. To go back on the leadership and authority. You've built that respect between them. You've built that rapport between them. They believe you because you've done it yourself. Yeah.
And you pushing the whole do as I say, not as I do is just trying to push your power, not.
Yes.
You don't have no, like you said, you have no.
Right there is a perfect example of power and authority.
Yes.
Right there. And so there you have it. We like to wrap things up with quotes. The first one by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And the second one by Dale Carnegie. Today is life. The only life you are sure of. Make the most of today. Get interested in something. Shake yourself awake. Develop a hobby. Let the winds of enthusiasm sweep you through. Live today with gusto. And again, that book was The Servant, a simple story about the true essence of leadership by James C. Hunter. The servant leader in this episode, the crew covers topics from leadership mentality, old paradigms, influences and environment, power versus authority, love, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Dale Carnegie and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.